Hey, what's going on, guys? 100 millimeter proof here. Going over my first video I'll be uploading on this channel. Just a bit of a passion project, really. I've been playing this game a long time, pretty much since the old 360 beta. As a lot of people do on this game, I think a lot of the community that's still kind of sticking around is a lot of old timers. Maybe not necessarily all the way back to those 360 days, but certainly kind of maybe the golden era pre 6.0. So what I really want to do, there's a lot of good channels for this game already established on YouTube, so I'm not really trying to reinvent the wheel here. Plenty of guys talk about the latest news, kind of the newest tanks coming out, updates, changes, things like that. I might cover some of that, but really what I kind of enjoy with this game is really kind of enjoying some nostalgia factor of playing some older tanks. I don't really grind too many new lines. I don't really get too many new, I don't have a massive garage where I have every single vehicle in the game, even though I've been playing so long. I kind of have my favorites when I like to hop on the game and have a couple battles. So, that's kind of what I'm going to do for the foreseeable future. Really starting out here, looking at the American T32, old but gold, man. So this tank has seen quite a bit of changes since its original inception to the game. Most notably, its armor and its gun, right? So, when the game first came out, this was actually my first tier 8 heavy tank ever, technically, because I got it on the 360 beta. And then when the game went live, I decided to go down the German tanks because one of the problems with this tank was the gun. The gun had 198 pen. It was the same as the T29, and that was one of its weaknesses, right? So the one thing is you're seeing in the replay, it's always been fantastic, is this thing has a godlike turret. I mean, the amount of turret armor this thing has is 298 at the front. It's got a thick gun mantlet with more armor behind. There's not a whole lot of cheese to go through, shooting in the gun mantlet, with some high heat rounds. You're not afraid of things, right? You see me kind of bowling that Highlander over there and using standard rounds to go through his cupolas, actually. So, kind of rewarding to play in high tier games and do well without even having to fire premium. Man, not always fun. There's a lot of times, even with your premium rounds, you're going to suffer, but so the T32, what do they get buffed since those old days? So basically, the gun now has about 20 millimeters more pen. I believe it's sitting at 218 pen these days, standard rounds, and premium still 245. It just makes you a lot more consistent going through same tier tanks as well as weak spots on higher tier tanks. Whichever tanks do have weak spots these days, but so the gun is kind of more on par with things like the Tiger 2 and some of its contemporaries in terms of penetration. The other big thing that this tank had buffed was its hull armor. So that frontal plate used to be, I believe, was 127 millimeters back in the day, and it wasn't angled poorly, but everyone knew that T32 that wasn't hull down, and oh wow, just bullying the crap out of this machine. You can still hold on bottom to your tanks, guys. Um, 127 millimeters it used to be angled back. You had just about a little south, I think, of 200 millimeters effective armor, kind of on flat ground with that, which wasn't bad whole armor. It just meant that if you're fighting tier 8, tier 9 vehicles, you couldn't just sit there and kind of take it. So that got buffed. I think now it's about 138 or 139 maybe. I'll have to double check at some point, but it's actually a massive buff because now you angle this thing about 20 degrees to the side. If you're sitting against someone with 200 pen or maybe just a bit north of 200 pen, you're really hard to penetrate. And unlike the Tiger 2, the lower plate is not so obvious. It's not so easy to hit. It's really, really small in this tank, so you're an absolute bully and an absolute menace. Really, to equal and lower tier tanks, tier 7s and 6s, you just absolutely kind of feast on them. And here in the game, I've kind of had a pretty good game. The game's winding down. It's pretty clear we're going to win. Standing around through an Avery, that feels so good compared to what that tank used to be. If I was an M48 pre-nerf Avery, I wouldn't be able to get that shot off. now I could pen it with my T32 standard rounds, which is just thumbs up to wargaming. Um, yeah, real big pickle here. I can't really move. There's a tank destroyer with him, and I was kind of screwed there. So it is what it is, and on to the next one. But this tank in 2026, how's it holding up? How's it doing? I think it's one of the stronger tier 8 heavies. I think your strengths are so pronounced, obviously being your ridiculous turret armor. Um, you know, the turret in a tier 8 game, and a tier 9 game, or tier 10, it doesn't matter. You go hold down, use some gun depression, and you're kind of rocking and rolling, right? The Cupola it's not even a weak Cupola. I think this Cupola, honestly, is probably stronger. It's certainly stronger than the M103's Cupola, one tier above it, and it's also a lot strong. Well, I won't say a lot. I would consider it stronger than the T110E5's Cupola because A, it's a smaller target, and it kind of has a uniform thickness to it. I think it's like 152 millimeters and sloped, maybe a bit thinner than that. But it doesn't have auto ricochet spots, and then some weird kind of easy to pen spots like the E5's Cupola. I do love the E5, and I don't mind its Cupola when I'm playing with it. You could do really well on that tank too. And I'm definitely going to do a video on that one at some point because that was my first tier 10, like a lot of people probably. Certainly back in the day when there weren't so many, and the first tier 10 I ever three marked, which was a really cool kind of experience. So, but the Cupola on the T32 is not even an obvious weak spot. You need some pretty high penetration to get through it. So you can perform well in higher tier games and lower tier games, and even if you're not sitting there doing a whole bunch of damage in higher tier games, where if you're shooting at a mouse, a Type 5 heavy, one of those godforsaken, um, godforsaken other tanks. What are they called? The Warhammer tanks. Sorry, the Lehman Russ and all that. If you're fighting those, you can't really pen them, but realistically, if you're going hold down and taking shots and bouncing and staying alive for your team, you're actually doing pretty well. You could bounce a whole lot of damage, and you'll see in this game here. This had some bots in it. Thankfully, that Black Prince was the only one I ran into. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I'm not trying to just post bot games because anyone can do a crap load of damage. But I get on this corner here. I'm finding IS-6 Black. That tank destroyer has kind of run away. You're going to see an ISU, I think 130, kind of show up here in a second, but I'm not afraid of this guy. I mean, I'm hold down. My hull is visible, but my lower plate isn't. It's angled up and back. None of these guys I'm scared of. Another bounce layer from the ISU 130, and yeah, it's not a full-on ISU 152, but he's got a decent TD gun, and I can't really hurt this IS-6. Maybe if I load premium, but he's kind of at a funky angle too. But I don't care if he shoots premium, man. I think he's got like 220-ish premium pen, and that's not enough to get through me on a good day, right? So take that shot real quick to make sure that guy doesn't continue being an issue for us down the line. That this game is close. It's not particularly close right now, but I've lost games like this and hit his shoulder plate there, and that's not going through. And even with APCR, I don't think it's going through either, so I don't bother loading it. But this tank it's old, but it's really fun to do well in, and once you understand how to play it and pick your shots well, it just kind of works, and that's kind of the beauty of it. Um, I think realistically, um, the matchmaker's tough on a lot of vehicles, some more than others. I don't like to play a lot of tier 8s that aren't tank destroyers because tier 8 tank destroyers, they kind of play the same, whether they're top tier or not. A lot of them, anyways. A handful of exceptions. But you have a nice high pen gun with good DPM and handling, so you sit in the back and you let your teammates do the spotting, and you kind of take advantage and just do damage. So, tier 8 tank destroyers aren't so bad, but certainly heavies. I mean, it's an oxymoron to say bottom tier heavy in this game. You're just a bottom tier XP pinata, and this guy had a real hard on for me. He wanted to get his last shot onto me, but my good friend, the 48 there, who kind of helped facilitate that push, takes him out before he shoots me. So I'm still on full health. I blocked 2,400 damage, taking quite a few hits here, and now we're just kind of mopping up almost 3.4k damage in a tier 8 game. That's a pretty good result for me. I'm not the world's greatest player. You're not going to see too many crazy games on this channel. If I get them, I'll post them for sure. But the unfortunate truth is, guys like Vishaw and some of the other crazy good players. I'm not that. I'm a decent player. My stats are pretty good. I've been playing the game a long time, but um, if I'm getting my like say my tier tens a 3 to 4 thousand damage game, I'm pretty happy with that, and the five or sixes will kind of pop in here and there. So um, I have a lot of good consistent games. I don't have the crazy 10,000 damage ones too often. I've had a few over the years, and you throw enough crap at a wall, some of it's eventually going to stick, right? So those kind of happen, but solid result here in the T32, almost 4,000 damage with this last shot puts me just over 4,200, 4 kills, 2,400 damage blocked, and just kind of really shows you how well you can do in your top tier. First game I just wanted to show because that's bottom tier, but um, yeah, just hope this channel kind of gets some discussion going and amongst the community, and you guys enjoy um, some of the videos I post, and we're gonna see where it goes from here. I have some free time coming up, and I'll probably get a couple more videos. Just wanted to shoot this one out there and see how the reception is, and maybe get a little small community here going that just want to talk about tanks, and not so much about the new stuff in the world. And yeah, that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys soon.